Hello, my name is Babette. Welcome to Lesson 7 from Book 2 of Babette's Quick Start Guide to Theory for Fiddlers. This lesson is titled, What Key Are You Playing In? And we're referring to sharps in this lesson. We have a couple of things that we need to review, and then we'll proceed to the lesson. The first thing is to remember how we determine the sharps by looking at the strings of our violin or mandolin. Remember that in the key of G, there's one sharp. In the key of D, there's two. In the key of A, there's three. And in the key of E, there's four sharps. We also know that F sharp is always the first sharp, and that we can find our other sharps by starting by putting our second finger on the F sharp on the D string, and then moving it to the next higher string, which is A, and placing the second finger in the same spot, so that would be C sharp. And then we could move it one string higher to the E string, placing the second finger in the same spot, and that will be G sharp. Sometimes you are not reading music, but you are playing a tune by memory. And if that happens and someone says, what key are you playing in? And you just don't really know, maybe you just learned the song and you don't know the key, you weren't told the key. How do you figure out what key you're playing in so you can tell them and they can accompany you? This also works if somebody else starts playing music and they haven't said what key it is. If you can pick out the melody, you can find out what key they're playing in. And this lesson is going to show you how to do that. This would be a good time to go get your violin or your mandolin, and I'm going to go get mine. And so pause this tape, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, now that we have our instruments, we're going to proceed. What you would do in a situation if somebody asked you is that you would play the tune quietly to yourself. And this is what you're going to observe. Is your first finger position low or high, which is normal, what we started with, on the E string? Is it low or high? And if it's in the high position, you are playing in a sharp key because you are playing F sharp, and F sharp is always the first sharp. If you are playing in a low position, you are playing in either a flat key or in C major. And this lesson does not deal with flat keys or C major. And you can also tell this by checking your second finger on the D string. Remember how we found our sharps. Is it high or normal position, which is F sharp, or is it in the low position, which is F natural? Once you have determined that you are in a sharp key because your first finger is in the high or normal position, then you need to take a look at your second finger position on the A and E strings. And if it's low on both, which means that your second finger is touching your first finger, you are in the key of G, which only has one sharp, and that is F sharp. If it is in the high, if your second finger is in the high or normal position on the A string, but it's low on the E string, then you are in the key of D, which has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. If your second finger is high on the A string and on the E string, you are in the key of A, which has three sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. You can also tell by checking your third finger on the G, D, and A strings. Is it in the high position, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp, or is it in the low, which is your normal position, C, G, and D? Now let's test this out. Let's get your violin and put it up in the playing position. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, was your first position low or high on the E string? Well, it was high, which tells you that it is a sharp key. Now, is your second finger position low or high on the A and E strings? Okay, so we had 2 second positions there. So it was high on the A and low on the E, which tells you that this is in the key of D. There are 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Okay, let's try one more. Play the following 4 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, to begin, remember we start with our first finger, and is it in the high or low position on the E string? It's in the high position, or the normal position, which tells you that we're in a sharp key. And is your second finger position low or high on the A and E strings? Well, right there we can see that our second finger position is higher in the normal position on that E string. So we now know that we are in the key of A, which has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Now, are you ready for the worksheet on what key are you playing in, sharps? If not, you can always review the material before you do this. Okay, here we go. Question 1. What is the first note to look at to determine if you're in a sharp key? The first note to look at is F sharp. And indicate the 2 first position locations to find that note. Well, there's an F sharp first finger on the E string and an F sharp second finger on the D string. And question 2. Indicate the next finger position you should check. The next finger position we should check is second finger, and that would be on the A and E strings. Question 3. If you are playing first finger high, normal on the E string, and second finger low on both the A and E strings, what key are you playing in? Well, you would be playing in the key of G. Question 4. If you are playing first finger high, normal on the E string, and second finger high on the A and low on the E, what key are you playing in? Then you are playing in the key of D. Question 5. If you are playing first finger high, normal on the E string, and second finger high on both the A and the E strings, what key are you playing in? You would be playing in the key of A. Now it's time to grab your violin. Okay, for question 6, you need to play the notes that are shown on your violin or mandolin 4 beats per measure and determine what key this is. And it should sound like this. So to find the answer, we first needed to see if there's an F sharp. And it turns out there was an F sharp, the very first note, the first finger on the E string. Then we need to look at the second fingers. And the last note in the first measure is a normal or high second finger. And the second note in the second measure was a low second finger on the E string. So we have an F sharp, we have a C sharp, but we have a G natural. That means that that selection is in the key of D. Now for question 7, you need to play the notes that are shown for that question, and it should sound like this. Okay, now, was there an F sharp in that selection? Yes, there is. It's the second note of the second measure, so we know it's a sharp key. Now we're looking for second fingers. There's a second finger in the first measure, and that's in the normal or high position, so that tells us we have at least 2 sharps. And in the second measure, we also have a second finger in the normal or high position, which tells us we have 3 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. That means that this selection is in A. Well, I hope you had fun finding out what key you're playing in if it's a sharp key. And we're going to have more fun in the next lesson when we find out what key we're playing in if it's a flat key. So thank you for following along with me, and see you soon.